All right. Good morning to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Choi, also co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And thanks so much for joining us wherever you're watching from. As you well know, we have a terrific show on tap for you guys. So without further ado, I'm going to dive right in. It's kind of surreal to be able to do this show and talk about this said milestone with this said film that is the subject of today's show. That film, of course, being the film adaptation of the iconic video game of the same name, none other than 1995's Mortal Kombat. Directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, the film follows a trio of warriors, that being Liu Kang, Sonya Blade, and Johnny Cage, being forced to battle otherworldly adversaries with the fate of the world hanging in the balance. Released in August of 1995, the film would gross more than 70 million domestically and more 120 million worldwide on a budget of about 18 million, which is crazy to believe in today's current climate. But insane nonetheless. Today, the video game series sits at 12 installments officially, not including a handful of spinoffs since its inception back in 1992. In a day and age where video game adaptations are far more commonplace, thanks to projects such as Fallout or The Last of Us, it is arguably to this day still considered among the best video game adaptations out there. So as we take a look down memory lane, as you can see here in the background, I will not be alone in reflecting on its legacy and impact. Today's guest, who hails from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, has amassed a legendary martial arts career, holding a 9th degree black belt in Red Dragon Karate, and was a 4-time #1 national champion on the North American sports karate circuit. During his competitive career, he dominated as the North American Sports Karate Forums champion, the NASCA weapons champion, and is an inductee into the American Karate Hall of Fame, where he received titles of Instructor of the Year and Competitor of the Year. After retiring from active competition in 1992, today's guest transitioned into film and television, where his martial arts expertise made him a sought-after commodity. These days, he continues to act as the president of Red Dragon Karate, overseeing operations across 12 studios in Southern California, continuing to teach, coach, and mentor martial arts school owners nationwide. However, in the world of Mortal Kombat, we know him as the Deadly Ninja Scorpion. It is my pleasure to welcome onto the show Mr. Chris Casamassa. Let me give him on now. Chris, what is going on, sir?
Well, good morning, and thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, just to hit the ground running, Chris, like I said, it's wild to believe that it's been 30 years. I remember being in the movie theater, with my mom, and believe it or not, my mom was a gamer too, so she played the game with me. So it was kind of a wild experience to be able to share that with her, and seeing the first adaptation of this crazy game that we had been playing for a couple of years. Can you talk a bit about being inducted into this tournament, so to speak, of this world of Mortal Kombat?
Yeah, listen, it's been an honor, and you're right. It seems like just yesterday we were filming that in Thailand and in LA and Hollywood, but it's been a great ride, and we've had a ton of support over the years. And like you said, we were probably the first video game adaptation movie that actually made money and did well at the box office.
For
And
sure.
most of that, I always give credit to all the fans. They've been loyal and committed all the way. And I give a lot of credit to Larry Kasanoff, the producer, because he really wanted to make it as authentic and close to the game as he could, because he saw, Street Fighter had come out previously and didn't do so well at the box office. Double Dragon, another video game, had come out and didn't do so well. So
Right.
he really wanted to do the game justice because he knew there was a lot of fan support behind it.
Excellent, excellent. And I mean, in talking about getting involved with this project, I understand that it was pretty serendipitous in terms of officially being cast as Scorpion, from what I understand. So if you care to share that story, is quite interesting.
Yeah, it was a happy accident, I guess. I had gotten a call to go to the audition for this film. I'd done some, like you said, I'd done some smaller films and some other projects at Shoot Fighter, with Billy Zabka, and I did Black Eagle with Shokazugi and John Conley Van Damme, but just kind of small little parts here and there, B movie stuff. So this was an A-level movie, and I had an opportunity to go in, but they said they were just auditioning background fighters. They told us all the roles had been cast, and so went to this cattle call of casting, and there was probably 100 martial arts guys there because Larry wanted to bring in real martial artists for this, martial art fighting movie. So it made sense to him to bring these guys in. And they had the audition set up, and it was actually kind of like a karate tournament. I had just come off the pro tour at that time, so it was right in my wheelhouse. And I was watching a bunch of people go, and they were really good. And I was like, wow, I really want to do this. I've never been in a A-level movie before. Even though it's background, it'd still be a great experience for me. So I wanted to do something that would try and help me stand out. And while they had the people that were watching us perform in the room, they had them sitting in chairs. And when you're sitting in a chair, you're only 3 or 4 feet tall. I was in my prime at that point, and I was like, you know what? I'm pretty sure I can clear these guys. So I started doing my routine, and I ran right at them, and I did a jumping side kick right over them. And I landed on the other side of them. I watched their heads kind of like, what the hell's this guy doing? I did some moves behind him, and then I kind of jumped over and finished my routine. And I got a call that night, and they said, hey, we want you to come back tomorrow. And I was like, well, all right, really cool. That's great. And so I went back. It was a much smaller group, and they had us do some more stuff. I got a call the second night and say, hey, we want you to come back tomorrow. And now I'm thinking, wow, man, it's really hard to get in a big budget movie because I just background fighter. I'm going 3 auditions. And, I go back the third time, and there's just 3 of us. There's me and 2 other guys going. And they're just filming us with a movie camera, and there's a bunch of people behind the camera. I have no idea who they are, and I don't even know what we're doing. They're really at this point with just 3 guys, and they're kind of filming us going back and forth. And then one of the guys walks over and says, hey, would you guys mind taking off your shirts? And I was nervous, and I was young and a bit of a smartass. And so I looked at the guy and I go, hey, if it'll get me in this movie, I'll go back to your trailer. And yeah, see, you laugh, and that was the response.
No.
I was trying to get that response
from
him, but this guy just looked at me stone-faced, and I was thinking to myself, whatever this is, I just blew it. Like, I don't know. My nerves got the best of me. So we're standing there, we take off our shirts, and I look to my left, and the guy on my left he's kind of out of shape, and the guy on my right, he's not in that good shape. And I was in my prime, and I'm flexing, but I'm trying not to flex. You're trying to look like, oh, this is me. This is me normally. And they film us, and they go into this football huddle for what seems like forever. It's probably just a few seconds. And then the same guy walks over, and he shakes my hand and he says, welcome to Mortal Kombat. You are going to be Scorpion.
Wow.
And until that moment, I had no idea what was going on, what was happening. And so it turned out, by the way, that guy was the director, Paul Anderson. Yeah. And so I didn't know until that moment that that's what was going on. And to this day, Larry won't tell me if the roles actually were cast, and they saw what I did and they brought me in, or if the roles weren't cast and they were just trying to basically try and find somebody if they could. So I don't really know the truth behind that whole story, but that's kind of how it happened for me. And it's been a great ride ever since.
Excellent. And talking about, getting into the mindset of that character of Scorpion, could you also share the thought process of perhaps the movement of that character, perhaps the style that you wanted to implement, with that character? Was that something that was discussed in terms of trying to distinguish characters from one another? Because I understand, outside of yourself and Francois, he also being having that background in martial arts and a few others, that wasn't necessarily the case with some of the main stars where they had to be trained to do that. So what had that been a discussion of trying to determine a mentality with the fighting style with Scorpion? And if so, what was it?
Yeah, the discussion was authenticity, right? And fortunately, I was a very big fan, and I still am a fan of the game to this day. I would drive to for people listening, they had these things called arcades where you would go to these buildings and a bunch of video game machines, and you would put quarters in them to play. This was way before console games, right? So I was a big fan of the game, and I would drive. The closest one to me was like a 20-minute drive, but I would drive to go play that game, and I was a huge fan of both Raiden and Scorpion in that
Okay.
order. Those are my two favorite characters. Nowadays, it's the other way around. Scorpion's my number one right now.
Of course.
But I still love Raiden. And so I was familiar with all of Scorpion's moves, right? Because I had played the game religiously and I was a big fan. So when we got on set, the talk was more about how do we keep this as authentic to the game as possible. And as anyone who plays the game knows, Scorpion is just a mean,
relentless
brawler character. Yeah. And so we wanted to make sure that we had that come through. Fortunately, the style of martial arts I do, Red Dragon Karate, is not similar to that kind of fighting style, but it's along those lines. So it was pretty easy for me to get into the mindset and the style of the character, having been a fan of the game and studying martial arts my whole life.
Gotcha. And talking about just being on that set, could you share that? Because I mean, there are a lot of details about like how tricky it was in terms of the locale of being in Thailand. I understand that a lot of things that people take for granted. I get this, having that acting background, but a lot of people take it for granted of just little small things of restrooms and things like that. Like, is there any truth to that of like the having like outhouses and things like that because you only could get to certain stats via boat?
No, not really. We had a pretty good experience on location, and again, this was a bigger budget film, so they took pretty good care of us in that aspect of it. The logistics of going to Thailand, though, I mean, it's on the other side of the world from LA, and so that was pretty challenging. But the rest of it was pretty fun, pretty good.
Okay. All right, cool. Now just getting into, as I said, just the overall legacy of Mortal Kombat, because you would go on to do other things, right? Of getting into, which I want to be able to dive into briefly too, which is WMAC Masters, of course, as Red Dragon. Can you talk a bit about how that transition came about? Because there are a lot of alumni, whether we're talking about from the world of the legacy of the game or even from the film, that are a part of WMAC Masters, and it's kind of surreal of how that all came together. Because I'm like, gosh, you have all of these, parties that are, a part of the Mortal Kombat family, but you guys are, bringing something else to life.
Yeah, it was a kind of a small world. The producers for WMAC they scouted us off the Pro Tour, off the NASCAR Tour. Myself and Hakeem Alston, Mike Bernardo, people like that. Yeah, who were in the show because they also got smart and they wanted top talent. They were doing a show about martial arts and they wanted to bring in some real martial artists to make it authentic. I mean, their theme of the show was kind of like Power Rangers meets the WWE type of thing.
Yeah,
so
of course,
which is really cool. And I'm going to give you a bit of a insider scoop. The people who now own the rights to WMAC are in the process of potentially bringing that show back to TV.
Get out.
Yeah.
Get out. Awesome.
Yeah. So this coming July is kind of a reunion for WMAC. We have something happening in Orlando where we shot the pilot. The original pilot episodes, and a lot of the episodes we shot were in Orlando at Universal Studios. So we've got something going on there this July, and if that goes well, then I think potentially next year you could see the return of WMAC.
That is awesome. Well, to carry on from that and talking about legacy, you would have an opportunity to take on Scorpion again in the television series in Mortal Kombat Conquest. And so, I'm curious, as you said, in coming onto a big budget picture, in '95, and now having that under your belt, was it did it feel like a different dynamic, or could you talk about that dynamic? Because now you have ownership of that character, you have new folks coming on when you're doing the show versus when you were doing the film, you had to establish, that ownership of that character.
Yeah, well, listen, doing a TV series is a big difference between doing a film where you have kind of a locked type of set and group, but a weekly episodic TV show, you're like you said, you have a new crew, a new cast coming in every week. You have your main characters, which I was fortunate enough to be one of them on that series. So it's always a challenge meeting new people. And then you've got to turn out basically a 30, 45-minute TV show in a week, which in this industry is pretty miraculous.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's a crazy schedule. I mean, we had 90 days to shoot a 2-hour movie. That was, the shoot time. That doesn't count pre-production or post-production stuff, but the actual filming of it was 90 days. But this TV show, you have 5 to
Wow.
do, to get a 30-minute, 40-minute show in the can and done. So it's a much faster pace, and you really got to be on your A game to be doing those things.
Got it. And were there any instances of that where, in working on that show of having times where folks would come to you in terms of that character, since you are the OG, so to speak, on set when it comes to that character, versus other instances where they may have already kind of made those decisions, or where you had to kind of step in and say, hey, like, I'm picturing that it wouldn't happen this way with this character, and they trusted that because you were the OG.
Yeah, again, I give a lot of credit to Larry Kasanoff, who is also the producer of the TV series, and he's the one that brought Mortal Kombat to the big screen. And listen, the truth is, he took a chance on me. At that point, I was really a relative unknown in the industry. He
Yeah.
took a chance on me to pull off a pretty iconic role, and for both of us, fortunately, it worked out really well. Because of that, he and I, became really good friends. He gave me my shot, he gave me my opportunity, and I hit a home run for him. And so it worked out. So when the TV show came around, I was one of the first people he called. He's like, "Hey, we're bringing this to TV. We're going to show the origin story in this timeline of Scorpion, which was a character called Takeda, who ends up
Yeah.
becoming Scorpion in the show." And he goes, "So the cool news for you is you don't have to wear a mask in the first few episodes." And I was like, "Yes, I'm in." And so yeah, it was. Listen, it's been a great run. It's been an honor to do that. And again, I give Larry and the fans a ton of credit.
Got it. Got it. Got it. And
And listen, at that time, I had a good grasp of the role. Like I said, I've been a big fan of the character. The movie had come out; it was a hit movie, so there wasn't anybody really saying, "Well, you should do this, you should that." I ended up getting a lot of creative freedom, and our fight coordinator on the
absolutely.
show, our fight coordinator on the show is Pat Johnson, who was iconic, and he did all the fight scenes for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He did all the fight scenes for Karate Kid. This guy has been an icon in the industry forever, and so to have someone like that at your side, then it just makes your job a lot easier.
Gotcha. 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 And speaking, further about that, Chris, and talking about, again, getting through the legacy and talking about the film, getting back to the film. Um, when we're talking about the action sequences, that we have, on display, in that said film. I understand in the initial draft of it, there there was and there was there wasn't as much action that was available, and I guess you guys had to go back and do reshoots initially. Can you talk a bit also about that challenge? Because I understand, based on the difference of mastery when it comes to martial arts, that there were some instances where, unfortunately, there were some unfortunate matters that happened where, and I mean, I know it was unintentional, but that it did happen, because I guess there was an instance with Lyndon Ashby, because he commented on it. Of, I guess it was in that extended fight that you have. I guess, what is it, in Hell? I guess we could say Hell, um,
Mm-hmm.
where I guess he bruised his kidney. I don't know if he's ever like, if it's ever like become a thing that he discussing the interactions that you've had together in the over the years, but it's a I'm just curious, in terms of discussing, those things, those extended sequences that were done.
Yeah, well, listen, the fight scene that you see us do was actually supposed to happen in Thailand, but as you know, productions run late and things happen and you go over budget. So we essentially ran out of time. Lyndon and I had rehearsed that fight scene for months, and we had it down, and we were looking forward to it. And he and I had a lot of conversations about how these two characters should interact and fight, and we had it really dialed in. And we ran out of time, and so the original fight scene that happened in the forest was after my creature goes away, hits the tree and dies. Then he's running at me. When you see him running at me, he actually, in the original cut, he does a jumping sidekick to me and knocks me out.
Yeah.
Right. And they did test screenings in the audience, and the test screenings went horrible the audience was like in rebellion. They stood up, threw their popcorn at the screen. They were like, "There's no way Johnny Cage beat Scorpion like that," and blah blah
That
blah.
quickly, yeah.
So it ended up we had to do the reshoots in LA because we were back, and so that fight scene really took place because of the fans and the fan support, and which is why I give the fans a lot of credit. I'm so appreciative of them because without them, that would have never happened, and it would have been a horrible fight, right? In the movie, if Johnny just runs at me and kicks me, and that's it. So it all worked, it all worked out. And the part about his kidneys and ribs, that's his fault, and he will tell you that. And because he said when we were doing it, we needed to make the shots a little more realistic. This was way before all the CGI that you see nowadays, so we're really going at it and fighting. And we were up on a platform that's 20 feet in the air. We were really on that platform. That's not CGI. We're there. And he said, "Listen, I need you to hit me." And I looked at him and I'm like, "Lyndon, you do not want me to hit you." He goes, "No, just hit me." He's an actor, and I'm a martial artist who acts. There's a big difference between those two. And so he goes, "I want you to hit me." And so I did it once, and I hit him kind of lightly. He said, "No, hit me harder." And so the next time we did the shot, I hit him harder. And he was like, "Oh, I probably shouldn't have said that." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." But he actually got me back. There was a part in the thing where he actually punches me and hits me in the head. So it was an equal opportunity beating that we gave each other.
Gotcha. And I was gonna say, while we're still on this topic, it has been discussed, the idea when we're thinking of just action sequences in general across, a lot of iconic films, Mortal Kombat, which I understand has gotten the credit of being among the first to incorporate the wire work that has become a far more commonplace in a lot of action films these days. So could you perhaps share about that, if that was something that was implemented in some of the sequences that you recall of doing something that I guess at that time wasn't really being done with a lot of the action films at that time?
Yeah, I mean, we had some wire work in there, but we were definitely not one of the first ones to do it. Wire work had been pretty prevalent and has been in the Hollywood industry for quite some time. So yeah, there was some in there. The part where he flips me over and I flip backwards and hit my legs on that railing. That was a wire work gag right there. The part where Raiden shoots me across the ship and I go flying, that was a wire work gag. So we had a few of them in there, but it wasn't nothing so crazy. Like you see today. It's even way crazier today, the wire work.
It is indeed. And so whenever we do these anniversary shows, Chris, it's always fun whenever we're going back down memory lane, is reflecting on it and saying, I'm most proud of this, or I wish I had an opportunity to do, this, or be able to do this differently. So I wanted to be able to give you the floor, and you can do it in however order you like of, I wish there was an opportunity to do this, not necessarily a regret, but maybe, an opportunity to do something, or something that you're most proud of in reflecting on Mortal Kombat, and being a part of that legacy. So I'll leave it up to you if you want to do most proud of first, or do differently, or have the opportunity to do first.
Yeah, man. Well, first of all, I got to tell you, I've got no regrets. I have loved every minute of the experience and everything that I've been through, from the film to the TV show to the web series, everything I've ever had a chance to do with Mortal Kombat. It's been a great journey. If I could say I wish they would do a multiverse of Mortal Kombat and bring the 95 characters into what they're doing now, because the fans have gone nuts every time I mention that, and it would be a really cool thing to do. So yeah, that would be my only. I wish they would, and we'll see. There's been talk of it, but there's nothing concrete. It's definitely not happening in this next movie, so don't expect that if you're watching this Scorpion Launch here. But the cool thing is, listen, and here's why I have no regrets. Like, I'm in Fortnite now. Like, my character's now in Fortnite. They put the original skin in the game, and now it's in the Fortnite game. So Scorpion's legacy continues to grow, and it is because of all the Mortal Kombat fans that are so passionate about the brand and about the characters. And it's something I really appreciate, and it's been an honor every step of the way.
All right, excellent. Well, Chris, I really do appreciate this, man. It's been crazy to be able to do this show and think about, gosh, like, this was 30 years ago. I'm gonna age myself. I was 9 when I saw this film.
Well, the funny part is I was only 10 when we filmed it, so there you go.
And it's just wild to think back wow, I'm actually, talking some Mortal Kombat, and all of this, knowledge of this game was able to be, applied. So before I let you go, can you tell folks where they can find you?
Oh man, I'm the easiest person to find. I'm on all the socials. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Snap. I'm even on Snap. So the hard part is just learning how to spell my name, because my name on all the platforms is my name, and it's kind of a tricky last name, Casamassa. But I'm pretty easy to find. So any one of those places, or you can go to my website, chriscasamassa.com.
All right, excellent, excellent. So, with that being said, again, I want to thank Chris for hopping on the show and looking back on 30 years of Mortal Kombat. Scorpion himself, so awesome. So, with that out of the way, I'm your host, Brandon Choi, co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there, and see you soon, guys. Bye now.
See you, Brandon. Been a pleasure.